Hey, this is your host Chris. Welcome to another episode of Crappy Reviews, a channel all about helping you shed some light on your favorite shows. To keep up to date with what's coming up, be sure to follow us on social media, and if you enjoy what you hear, take a second to hit the like button so we and the algorithm know we're on the right track. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Let's go. Well, everyone, that was an interesting episode. And probably about 10 minutes in, I think we all realize it's going to take a few rewatches to really absorb what we just saw, both narratively, stylistically, and for a series that the acting across the board is consistently at a high level. Adina Porter's performance was hypnotic, absolutely incredible. But what did it all mean? So, if we remove the supernatural aspects for a minute, it's an allegory for how society sees women, immigrants, homosexuals, transgender people, particularly in the 80s, since the bulk of the episode is set in 82, specifically January 4th, 1982. Hence, we see it on the ledger when she signs into the hotel. Charles Blackwood as Lester, as well as the homeless man in episode 1. The progressive dads from the park are shown as disrespectful degenerates, and of course, we see Brian West, the man dying of AIDS in room 200. Not to mention Lillian herself. So we're being shown glimpses of the characters' opposites in realities where they had taken the other pill. Red and blue are themes throughout the series, but in this episode, they really took advantage of the visual effect. It's everywhere, and very, very direct. This is called Chromostereopsis, which is a visual illusion where on the positive side, red bars are perceived in front of blue, and on the negative side, blue bars are perceived in front of red. Historically, artists have used this as a way to generate perspective. It's an illusion which ties into the glamour themes of the show. The intro itself shows the title with red and blue as they join together by the end of the title scene, asking us right off the bat which version's real. Is the red bar in front of the blue, or is the blue bar in front of the red? Which version of these characters is real? Homeless Charles holding a red and blue state secret bag? Gatekeeper Charles, who was in a hotel made for immigrants? Or Lawyer Charles living the American dream with a picture on the wall of immigrants sailing into Ellis Island behind Lillian? But let's move on to Lillian's American dream, because it's a big part of the episode, and how she would kill to attain it, which she tells us, and inevitably that's what happens. Killing what she would call a real American, and assuming his place by the end of the episode, like a changeling, using glamour to hide her culture and personalities to not be discovered, even naming her son Apollo, as in Apollo Creed, who in the movie was the ultimate American dream and did so despite his race at the time. Everything Lillian wanted for her son, but told herself not to express, whereas Brian identified himself as a god, and he identified Apollo as a god right off the bat. It's a reflection of Brian's worldview and the power he holds over everyone in the room, or at least his perceived power that he holds over everyone in the room. We even have a Pinocchio reference when Lillian tells us we all grow up wishing on a star. And if you remember, Pinocchio was a dream made real. And just like Geppetto, Lillian gave all her dreams to her son in her goal to make Apollo a real boy, a real American boy with hot dogs and PB&Js. So by this point, we've seen multiple parallels in the show about Apollo and Lillian, their life experience, their first dates, their relationships. But in this episode, we see a lot of parallels between Lillian and Emma and their realization that they'll never not be a mother again. Both are literally on the edge, apologizing for the mother that they unexpectedly became and looking back at the woman that they were, and at times even resentful of who they become, resentful of being a mother, but both seem to make a deal for strength. Emma with the Lagoon Witch, Lillian with whatever she was talking to in the room. Even down to the movies that are shown in the episodes. Columbo and Fantastic Planet are both movies based on oppression and uprising. And the women both are willing to sacrifice their life and their husbands' lives for their child, which Lillian actually does to protect Apollo. This brings me back to the third wish, which we haven't been explicitly told what it is, but I think it's power and strength, which can be seen in a sociological sense, but this show portrays it as witchcraft. Strong women being burned at the stake for speaking out, exactly as Lillian told herself not to do. And then we see William strangling a woman in the hotel who earlier in that episode had some power over him, casting a spell as she walked by and made William work for it, like a witch. Because remember, William tells us when he's stuck in the cage on Cal's Island that that's what witches do. That's what he tells Apollo. Even the picture that Emma takes that apparently sparks KG to appear in William can be seen as a show of strength. The female body, nudity, her position of giving gifts, and the way that her hand positions are and what that represents, and the way that she looks at it is being described as a sorceress, but in reality, it's most likely strength and defiance. But in the analogy that the show's giving us, it's a look of witchcraft and sorcery. And when William walks by and sees that, it's almost like the KG in him that is as angry at that photo as he was with the prostitute in the hotel. KG comes out, and that's the version that we see. Okay, let's go back to the supernatural because it's fun. The mirror monster and the deal that's made. It's unclear if Lillian is making a deal with herself, with an angel, with the devil. It comes across to me as she made a deal with the dark force of the show, the monster that we see in the mirror and in the water at the end, and obviously in the intro of the show. Her older self says, "These deals that we make are real," and then brushes off the detail that it will come back and bite Apollo in 35 years. Does that mean that she causes Apollo's problems? Because earlier in the series, Apollo yells and says that his situation is her fault because of decisions she made years ago, which he thought at the time was divorce, but was actually her protecting him from her father or his father by killing him. But, the point still remains that a decision she made years ago may have caused the problem he has today. We also see KG's initials in the hotel, so maybe she's talking to KG and made the deal with him or it. And maybe not William himself, but the entity that is KG, the dark force that is taken over these other creatures that controls them. And baby Brian was the price. And it's why she wanted him to get baptized, knowing that her debt was due soon. The episode has very similar themes to the 2007 film 1408. It's based on a Stephen King book, and The Shining. The Elk Hotel keychain alone on the table is a direct callback to the keychain used for the real Overlook Hotel in Kubrick's masterpiece, The Shining. All three explore themes of fighting inner demons, seeing and hearing things that may or not be there, and not all of them come out alive. And they weren't sure if they were going to come out alive when they went into the hotel. All three take place in hotels. And all three deaths would potentially be self-inflicted. The main character in 1408 even uses the tape recorder throughout the entire film to dictate what's happening in the room. And all three, both films and the episode, leave us, the viewer, wondering if what we saw was real or not. None of them actually clarify whether or not the supernatural stuff in the show actually happened. It's up for us to decide. And at the end of this episode, I was really starting to question whether any of the supernatural stuff is real or if it's all just a really good analogy, and we're going to find out that none of it's real at the end. But I'm hoping that's not the case, and I don't think it is. I think it's just such a strong analogy that it made me think that. But all three of these movies and TV shows end the same general way, with this up to the audience to decide what they saw was real or not. So what happened to Brian's body? Was he in the red suitcase? Did she leave his body in the trash that was overflowing in the streets because of the strike? It's what we saw written on the table at the end. Some people suggested that he is the transgender woman that was found 2 weeks later and that Lillian put the dress on him and no one was the wiser. Interestingly, the three gold pieces at the end look similar to cufflinks or the back of pins that might have been on Brian's police uniform. I'm not saying it is, but when I Googled it and looked, they do look like the back of pins or possibly cufflinks, but more like the back of a pin. So who knows? I'm leaning to him not being in the suitcase, but any evidence of a crime and the improbabilia box being in the suitcase makes more sense to me, because she seemed shocked when Apollo had it in the flashback, and it looked like it was all wet, like it had been rained on. Which begs the question, who left the box? Now that we know by that point Brian had already been dead. Granted, the stormy weather scene where the dying man who looked like Brian appeared to be some sort of watery grave and going towards the light with the light in the square and all around him could lend a lot of credence to the fact that he was dumped into the ocean. Lastly, Kim. Okay, I had said in prior episodes that Kim knows more than she's telling, and even after she supposedly clarified what happened to her and Emma's parents, she seemed to know more about the wise ones than she should have, so I have a theory. Kim is not Emma's sister. Kim is Emma's mother. Now, hold on. I know you're probably giving a look to the TV or your car radio, but hold on for a second. The man that we see with Kim in episode 7, when Lillian's initially walking up, looks not just kind of close, but identical to her father in episode 2 when he's going back into the house.
Identical.
So my question is, was the baby that she was saying was not her baby Emma? Or was it actually Emma's real sibling that was taken, and they never went to foster care? They went to the wise ones, which is why Emma's memory about her parents is shaky at best. Her father's death doesn't make any sense. She tells Apollo she doesn't really ever remember talking to them. She's sure she has, but doesn't really remember talking to them. Kim also looked pretty troubled when they're under the covers and she tells her that she wants to be the perfect mom and she had a great role model. Kim does not take the chains away from Emma after they go to meet Cal's contact to get those chains. She acknowledges what they are, but doesn't take them away, even though she kind of knows where things are going to go. And then later on, when Apollo gives her the check, which is dated Friday the 13th, she tells Apollo it wasn't supposed to be like this. So that's what I think. But as usual, I want to hear what you think. How did Lillian dispose of the body? What do you think Kim's relationship to Emma is? All your theories, leave them in the comments. Well, that's it for this episode. If you enjoyed it and you want to support the channel, please like, subscribe, and share. If you've already been doing those things, both Rob and I genuinely thank you. Until next episode, stay curious out there.